So let me stray, please guide my way onto the path of my deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, I'm calling your name. Oh, Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear viewers, to a live episode of Let's Talk, and I'm your host, Junaid Dar. Dear viewers, Let's Talk is coming to you live, so do join us on this fantastic discussion. You will see our numbers there on the screen as well, so join us in this debate, in this discussion, and give us your viewpoints as well. Now, Let's Talk has two main features. Number one, we bring to you hot discussions, debates on topics which you really enjoy. And number two, we bring to you guests from all around the world talking about their experiences, about their knowledge on these subjects. Before I introduce to you our guests, let me give you an insight into our discussion today. Three key words: assimilation, integration, or segregation. Now, as Muslims, minorities in non-Muslim countries, or even Muslims, practicing Muslims living in certain Muslim countries, sometimes we find ourselves different to the big community. So should we assimilate? Should we become like the wider community and adopt their habits, adopt their morals, and change ourselves? Or should we integrate, keeping our stances, keeping our principles, but yet working within society for our own progress? Or option number three, should we segregate and be separate, or as they would say, ghettoization, have our own communities and completely abstain from the wider community? Inshallah ta'ala, this is the discussion for today, and we would love to hear your views, your opinions, and what you would like to say. Our numbers are running across the screen. Do join us. If you're calling us from outside of Egypt, please don't forget to use the code, which is inside the brackets there, 002. Let us begin by introducing our guests and then go straight into our discussion for the day. If I can begin from the right-hand side, brother, if I can ask you to introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and inshallah we can move around the table.
Sure. My name is Omar Khalid. I'm an Egyptian citizen. I work in one of the TV channels. I write scripts and translate.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yes, brother.
My name is Mohammed Ismail Khafagi. I'm a student at Faculty of Language and Translation, Simultaneous Interpretation section. I'm working as an English instructor.
Excellent.
I'm Egyptian.
Egyptian as well.
Yes.
Very nice. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, my name is Patrick. I'm from Slovenia. I came to Egypt mainly because of education, and I'm willing to work here later on in my life, inshallah.
Okay, excellent. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, my name is Ahmed Mohammed Bunir. I'm still studying at Faculty of Languages and Translation as a university. Inshallah, I'm going to join the last year, inshallah, and I'm 22 years old. I'm an English instructor as well.
Okay, two English instructors, that's
Yes.
great. Okay, let's first very quickly just get your opinions on the subject itself, starting with Brother Omar. I mentioned three words: assimilation, integration, or segregation. Very briefly, what do you think is the right attitude we Muslims should have?
Yeah, I think that it's a very important topic, especially right now because of the rising Islamophobia in the West and so on, to discuss this important topic. And I think when some people, they say that Muslims, they don't assimilate, maybe sometimes they attack us and they say that we don't assimilate, and that means that you isolate. No, it's a false dichotomy. It doesn't mean that it must be black or white. And integration is the right way. It's the middle way that we adopt the culture of this country that we're living in, but we don't just give up our principles, because every culture, they have their own principles, they have their own values, so you stick by these values and you act like anybody else as long as it doesn't violate your own principles.
Okay, excellent. So we have one man for integration. Let's hear Brother Muhammad's perspective.
According to the definition that you have mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I think there is a difference between the three terms.
Okay.
And I'm going with the second term, which is integration, as Omar, because when you are integrating with people, I think you are just having the way to deal with them in a correct way, without leaving your opinion, your values, your everything. Okay. Leading to this point. But when you are feeling that you are segregating from the society or something like that, you are just feeling lonely, you are reluctant to deal with people, something like that.
Very nice.
According to assimilation is you are dealing with people, but you are adopting their values and traditions, something like that. But as Omar said, when you are traveling to another countries, for example, and these countries are trying in a different way that is different from your perspective or your your own idea or something like that. So you have to get yourself stick to your values without being very far from them.
Okay.
So I think the best way is to integrate with others.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Okay, so we have two people on integration.
Yes.
Let's hear on this side. Brother Mustafa, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that if I could like say this point, I think it would be like in between, if it can be, like assimilation and integration. Like, I'm not saying that assimilation, like you have to be exactly like the community, like you have to pick all their values and put all your values aside. No, I'm saying that there are certain things, when it comes to values, there's a lot of them.
Okay.
I'm saying that you integrate with certain values and you assimilate with certain values that you think are right, as long as they don't go against Islam. If it's okay in Islam, then you can assimilate. You can take their values. If it's not, you could just integrate. You keep your own values and you deal with people as they have to know that you have your own values. You deal differently, but definitely not with being the isolated society and being alone and having this feeling like we're different, because that's exactly what the problem is. People think we're different. We need to show people that actually we're people just like they do, and that religion is a belief, and
Right, okay.
it's in our hearts. Like, it's not something we live by it, and it's we have to show them the correct Islam, not the ones that they think about.
Okay, great. So we have one person edging closer to assimilation. That's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brother Mustafa. Oh, sorry, Brother Ahmed.
Of course, assimilation is the best for us, but because the nature of the human being is to assimilate with others and to integrate with others. But sometimes, as you said, isolation is required. Why? Because some people sometimes pull you back. They have to affect you with their culture, and sometimes it doesn't go with your Islam, so you have to isolate yourself from them. But in general, integration and assimilation with other people is the best thing.
Okay, mashallah, I like that. So we have contrasting views. We have
Yes.
integration on this side and partial assimilation and partial isolation on this side. All right, great. I'm going to ask you now, you guys, to defend your position. You mentioned integration, and you said verbally it sounds very nice, but many people will say, especially in the West, that this is something which is just a theory. In practical, Muslims don't integrate. You will actually be part of the society, but you will live separately. So how can you actually be really integrated?
Well, maybe I just remembered now one incident in the life of the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, that we know that he lived in Medina, and when he established the first Islamic nation, that the Muslims actually, they were a minority at that time. It's not known for most people. They think that because the Islamic State was established, that Muslims are the majority. No, they were Jews, they were pagan worshippers and idolaters. So, and we lived side by side, and we had contracts like we are the one nation.
Okay.
Like we have different religions. So I think that's wrong when some people, they don't apply this in the West, and they don't try to integrate with their societies. They are not actually following the footsteps of the Prophet. And there is another example of this, that the Prophet said, may peace and blessings be upon him, that there was an alliance at the time of ignorance, at the time of Jahiliyyah, before the Prophet was sent to people. It was called the Alliance of the Virtuous, Hilf al-Fudul.
Okay.
This alliance, it was for the protection of the oppressed. And the Prophet said, if I am now, at the time of Islam, those people who were starting this alliance, they called me to join them, I'm going to join them.
Okay.
When he is the Prophet.
Right.
And he is, the father of the message itself. And he said, there's no problem. I can ally with you guys as long as you're doing something for a good cause, that you are going to help people and so on.
Okay, excellent. Brother Muhammad, what else could you bring forward from the life of the Prophet ﷺ that will back up your position?
Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was residing in Medina with many other communities, such as Jewish and Christians, something like that. But the Prophet ﷺ was dealing with them in a manner that revealed that the Prophet ﷺ was a perfect person, because the Nabi ﷺ has never isolated himself from them. The Nabi ﷺ allowed them to live with him, but they are just living with him, and they are benefiting the whole community, I mean Medina, yes? So Nabi ﷺ was working to them and give them the opportunity to work with him or something like that. And after that, the Nabi ﷺ was just cooperating with them in some matters relating to dunya. So Nabi ﷺ has never been isolated from the whole community. He was dealing with them, but in a perfect way, that regulating the way that Nabi ﷺ has been living.
Okay,
Yes.
very nice. All right, let's move over to the side. Mustafa, you were the one who was more closer to assimilation
I
than
was like in
anyone else.
between, yeah.
Yeah, but how would you defend that position if somebody came to you and said that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the Muslim should be different from the Jews and the Christians? How would you then justify your position?
I would justify it by making a point that when you say different, there's a lot of things in a human being. Like you can say the way he acts, the way he talks, that's something. You can say that what he believes, something. What he do, what kind of profession he has, that's something. Like a human being in his life, he has a lot of things going on. So I'm saying that I'm not saying assimilate everything.
Okay.
I'm not. That's crazy. No, I'm saying that you integrate or assimilate things that you think are better. Like let's say technology. If some other country has better technology, of course you're gonna assimilate and you're gonna use the technology as long as you use it for good. If it's not against Islam, then it helps your life. If it makes your life better, then use it. I'm not saying that you have to assimilate completely, because no, you still have your standards, you still have Islam, and that is what you keep as your belief. You don't just assimilate.
So you're saying that assimilation should take place in everything except for in the articles of faith, in your belief.
Yes, in your belief and in belief in Islam, but I'm not saying like everything. You have your own values. If you think it's right, you think it's right. It's your decision. But I'm saying that if it's for good, if it makes your life better, then you should assimilate, of course.
Okay, excellent. That's a good response. Okay, my next question, Brother Ahmed, you were the one who was most closest to isolation, but I'm going to put you in that position now. So how would you defend the issue of isolation when the Prophet ﷺ, he clearly said that خَيْرُكُمْ أَنْفَعُكُمْ لِلنَّاسِ, that the best of you are the ones who are most beneficial to the people. So if you're isolating, how are you going to be beneficial to people?
We said isolation with what's against your Islam, not in everything. Of course, integration and assimilation is required as long as it doesn't go against your Islam. But if it goes with your Islam, it's better. Of course, as Mustafa said, it's okay. It's not okay. It's the best thing to get assimilation as long as it goes with your Islam. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to deal with everybody. He used to respect everybody, not only the Muslims, but the non-Muslims, not only the live, but also the dead. You remember when he was sitting with his companions and funeral passed, he stood up. They asked him, he's not a Muslim. Why did he stand up? He said, isn't he a human being? So he used to respect everybody, every person on the earth, not just the Muslims. He used to deal with everybody. But when I say isolation, I mean isolation with what goes against your religion.
Okay, excellent. I'm just putting you on the spot, but mashallah, you did well. Okay, let's come back to this side. I want to bring the discussion to the real world now, Brother Omar. Do you find that Muslims in your country, or generally speaking, do you find that they are assimilating into society or they segregate? What is the reality?
Well, for a country like mine, I think it's going to be different from the West because we are majority Islamic country, so we don't see this isolation. I don't think it is there in my country.
Would you say that the religious people then, because predominantly now we find in the world that the most dominant system is like a secular system away from religious entities. So would you say that those people who are more religious minded, are they more involved in or are they less involved?
No, they are isolated. They are not involved.
Okay.
And I think that most of them, they just focus on theoretical stuff, not practical stuff. They don't try to change, like the status quo. We're trying to do, of course there are people who do this, but mostly, no, there is no action, on the ground.
Okay, all right. So the reality is isolation.
Yes.
Brother Muhammad, you're Egyptian as well, so
Yes.
we're going to have to move away from Egypt. Generally, what would you say from your experience in the Arab world? Would you say that practicing people, God-fearing people are isolated or are they assimilated?
According to the world we're living now, I'm talking about the Arab world.
Sure.
Now we have different perspectives here, according to the religious people. For example, you can find some people adopting some opinions and other contradicting with these opinions, and each one tries to show the other that he is correct. He the only one, he has the truth. Okay, so this is just the wrong way we are dealing with in our society here in the Arab world. Okay, because you know that each one, as Omar said, tries to show himself as being theoretical, something like that. He just trying to read some books, something like that. But he doesn't need to reveal to people the correct thing that go with our era or something like that. So we have to deal with these old things in order to get the whole benefit for our religion. But I think the religious people here are isolated as well.
Isolated as well.
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. All right, let's move over to Slovenia.
Slovenia.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, what I noticed in Slovenia is that we have quite a lot of Muslims there, but they assimilate in certain things and they isolate in others. I knew this man. He had an ice cream shop and he was a Muslim.
Okay.
He was from Albania, and he made a business he opened a business of, he had cakes and things, and he was the only one that would have halal food. Like he wouldn't put rum in certain cakes because people used to do that.
Okay,
And
very nice.
he was known for that. I really liked him, but he isolated when his son became of age. He would send him back to Albania so he could choose a wife from Albania. Like he didn't want him to have a Slovenian wife because he isolated in that point because he was afraid that maybe if he took a Slovenian wife, she would make him assimilate a bit too much, that would go against his Islam.
Right, okay.
So yeah, so there's a point there's a positive and there's a negative. I think in Slovenia we have Muslims that are really religious. They take care of their Islam, and they're a bit more isolated. To be honest,
Okay.
they do have their little own world. But we have Muslims that are assimilated. But I don't know how they assimilate. Like to which extent they do it. I haven't met one. But this example I met, as being a Muslim, I assimilated as much as I could. If it went against my Islam, I simply didn't do it, and I isolated myself. But what the problem is, like, for example, on Friday,
Right.
it's a working day.
Okay.
So I was in school, so it was a school day. So if I wanted to go to Friday prayer, I would have to skip school, and if I was skipping school, they would have me staying at home for the rest of the year. So that was not an option. But I'm saying that some things which you can assimilate, and if you don't want to, then you should isolate, because after
Okay.
all, your deen is the most important thing. You should
So
put
generally you're saying the Muslims in your country, they were more isolated or they were more assimilated?
if they're the real Muslims, like they take care of their deen,
Okay.
they isolate themselves a little bit more than assimilate. Yes.
Okay, excellent. Brother Ahmed, I'm going to ask you to give us a second viewpoint on your country, Egypt. What would you say?
Yes, it's different. Why? Because people in Egypt, especially religious people, are not isolated, but other people isolate themselves from religious people, not the religious
Interesting.
people isolate themselves. Why?
Very nice.
And it's a natural reaction according to what's been said to them and what they hear in the media and what the political issues they hear. If I tell you, for example, that someone destroyed your house, of course you'll naturally hate that person, whether you know him or not. And especially for people who are isolated from the outer part and they know nothing, they easily receive and believe what's said to them.
Okay.
And for people of understanding, they should be fair enough, because if I tell you that there are 20 members of the family and we have 2 who are corrupt, that doesn't mean that the whole family is corrupt. That doesn't mean that the family itself is corrupt,
Okay.
because of course minority does not represent the majority. And if you like to be fair enough, you have to look at the principles of the whole family. And the family here is Islam. And if you like to look at Islam, you have to go back to the principles of Islam. And if you like to look at the principles of Islam, you have to look at the principles of the leader of Islam, who is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. When he used to tell his companions and his friends and his followers in the war, not just in the peacetime, he told them not to cut a tree, not to kill an aged person, not to destroy an inhabited place. So he was like this in war. What about the peacetime? So if you say that Islam is the religion of terrorism, in such a case, you're unfair, of course.
Okay, mashallah, you defended your position again very well. Very nice. Two opposite, same answer, but from two different views about Egypt. You're claiming they isolate themselves, and Brother Ahmed is saying they have been isolated. This is very interesting. Could I go around the table again, building on that same question? Brother Omar, what do you think is the reason to why Muslims in Egypt are isolating themselves?
Well, I don't know how to start, but I would like to say that maybe because they're afraid.
Okay.
Maybe they're afraid that if they say that to people, like, what you're doing is wrong, maybe change these habits don't go with Islam, so maybe they are going to be attacked
Okay.
if they do this. So it's out of fear. This is maybe number one.
Right.
Maybe number two, because we don't have role models.
Okay, very
And
interesting.
The absent role models is a disaster for any nation if we don't have a role model, right?
Very nice.
So we are missing this, and of course in the West also. If I can talk also about the West,
Sure.
this is one of the reasons why when you said, Brother Junaid, that practically the Muslims, they don't join the communities in America. I think the root cause of this is extremism in the way of like looking at nationalism.
Okay.
Like every single country, we have our own values, and we have to isolate ourselves. I think that some mosques in the West, they have, like, for Pakistanis, for for Indians, for maybe sometimes for some tribes,
Okay.
like right, for some
Right.
tribes they have that. So this is my view.
Okay, very nice. Brother Muhammad, you also mentioned that generally speaking in the Arab world there is isolation.
Yes.
Can I ask you to talk about the role of the media?
Yes.
Do you think the media is a source of cause for the isolation?
Of course. Media is one of the most critical things that can affect everything in our life. So that all media men has to seek professionalism in their profession. Relating to our topic today, we have to know that the media is being spots the bad things about Muslims. For example, if you have ever watched the movies and series, something like that, you'll find them just depicting the bad image or the bad behavior of Muslims, something like that. They do not take the whole topic objectively. And one of the biggest examples that we are living nowadays, according to the Western countries, for example, America, the U.S. nominee President Donald Trump is just trying to stop migration of the Muslims to the USA if he is elected as a president. And because of what? Because he just judging the Muslim according to the minority, not the majority, as Brother Ahmed said.
Okay.
He's trying to stop them from traveling to USA. He just given his judgment according to the minority, not the majority. So media has a very effective role nowadays. So they have to understand the teaching of Islam first before they go explaining them to other people.
Okay.
And that's it.
Very nice. All right. Mustafa, so you mentioned the situation of Muslims in Slovenia.
Yeah.
Some of them are assimilating, some of them are isolating.
Yes.
Can I ask you for the reasons as well? Why do you think that is the case?
Yes, I would like to say it's the media, and what's the bigger case here is lack of knowledge of what Islam really is. Like, I was surprised when I was in Slovenia and when I was a Muslim, I was surprised how people see Muslims. Like, when you ask them, but what do you know about Islam? So you can make a point. They say, we don't know anything about Islam. But what we see on TV, oh, so you're saying you're seeing it on TV. Because what's on TV, maybe it's not right. Maybe they don't show you the whole page. They show you just like a clip or something, and then you make a perception in your mind of the rest. And most of the people don't even know what Islam is about. They don't even know we have a prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't know him. They just know there's someone named Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'm saying that what is the problem here is lack of knowledge of Islam in people. Like, if people, I'm sure that people with good hearts, if they know what Islam's teachings are, they will have a different perspective of what Muslims are like. They would think differently of us, but because the TV and the media are showing them just certain parts, they have a certain image, and that's it. So in my point of view, I think that a solution to this is really simple. We should like Brother Omar said, we should have a role model, like someone that would be a good Muslim and show how Muslims are supposed to be like. And we should also have Islamic centers that would educate people that what Islam really is. A book, whatever, just put it in somewhere, sell a book. If anyone wants to know, he's gonna read it, and he's gonna have the full knowledge of what Islam is, and that's how we should make a solution to this problem.
Okay, excellent. We're going to come into the solutions in a bit more detail in just a few moments. But Brother Ahmed, what would you say is some of the main causes for Muslims being forced to become isolated?
Yes, of course, as we all said, it's the media. The media is the most powerful thing nowadays, especially in the political and religious aspects. Because when you come to normal people like us and they have no relation to the outer world, as I told you, they have to believe what's said to them. But two sects are distorting the image of the Muslim country. How? First of all, the people belonging to the Islamic country or the Muslim community in general. For example, if you have some people know nothing about Islam and they come in the picture, and people listen to them and they adapted a different cultures that are different from the Muslim culture, they destroy the image of Islam.
Okay.
Other sects are the enemies of Islam, and you have, according to the CIA report, we have like 13,000 channels, 969 channels in the Arab world, and watched by more than 150 million channels, or 150 million people around the world, and especially in the Arab world. They are misled by the media. So the media has the most powerful thing, misleading people. And not only, as I said, in the Western countries, but in the Arab countries, because the secular people have come in the image and they have come in the picture. They are in the sea.
Okay.
Everybody sees them.
Okay, very nice. On that note, I'm going to take a small rest to give everybody a small breather. We'll take a small break, and then when we come back, inshallah ta'ala, we'll have a look at some of the solutions and some of the things that we can actually do to solve this problem. So, dear viewers, let's take a very short break here on our live program, Let's Talk, and then when we come back, we'll look at the solutions, and hopefully we'll get some phone calls, some interaction from you guys. Our numbers are there across the screen, so do call us, do join us, give us your views, your comments, your feedback, anything you would like to add to the show. So we will see you all in just a few moments.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Go ahead, Ya Shu'aib. Recite from ayah number 16 to 26.
Yeah, okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولقد خلقنا الإنسان ونعلم ما توسوس به نفسه ونحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد.
تلقى المتلقيان عن اليمين وعن الشمال قعيد ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد.
جاءت سكرة الموت بالحق ذلك ما كنت منه تحيد ونفخ في الصور ذلك يوم الوعيد وجاءت كل نفس معها سائق وشهيد لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا فكشفنا عنك غطاءك فبصرك اليوم حديد.
This is the Deen Show. 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 This is the Deen Show.
So from that, I've really come to understand that to be a Muslim, to be someone who says they've surrendered and submitted to the will of God, is to be in harmony with everything around you and to be a benefit to everything.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Creator, He gave us a life plan. He told us what to do. He gave us goals and what He expects from us.
It has roots in Islam because the first man who was created, Adam, he was neither a Jew or a Christian, but he submitted himself to God. Abraham, he didn't submit to anyone in creation. He didn't even hear in any of these religions. But when he was told to do what? Submit to the will of God, that's Islam.
Attached to his preconceived notions. And if he looks with an objective eye and an open heart, he'll see it. Unless Allah for some reason has something over his eyes because of something that we don't know is in his heart.
You had from 1980 to 2005, you had the FBI data report showing that now from all these years that only 6% had any links to Islam. 94% were people who had nothing to do with Islam.
This is the thing, this is the thing show.
This is the thing show. This is the thing show.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear brothers and sisters, after a short break on Let's Talk with our fantastic discussion here, talking about the three key words: assimilation, integration, and segregation. And as you've heard from our four panelists here, different viewpoints, different perspectives even on the same matter, some saying integration, some saying assimilation. Let's go into some of the solutions or look at some further questions on this subject. If I can come to Brother Omar, Muslims and non-Muslims, the relationship between them at times can be one of friendship and one of animosity. What is the correct way that Islam teaches us that we should behave with our non-Muslim neighbors?
Of course, we have to deal with everyone with good ethics, because, for instance, there is a verse in the Quran, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Say good to everyone. There is nothing special for Muslims, and because he is a Christian, because he is a Jew or something, then I'm going to deal with him in a bad way. No, of course not. That doesn't give me a justification to do so. And I think this is one of the reasons why some people, they misunderstand, some Muslims, that okay, he's a Christian, he's a Jew, so I can steal from him, I can do harm to him. And unfortunately, I heard before coming to the show that in France, for instance, some of the immigrants, the Muslim immigrants who went to France, some of them, they work in a job and they don't go and inform the government that they work.
Okay.
And that means that you're going to have benefits from the government, take from the taxes of people, while they are working.
Okay.
Of course, that's active cheating, and that's not a small number. There is a big number of Muslims who does this. So of course, this distorts not the image also only of Muslims but of Islam. Lots of people are going to think that Islam tells them to do this, but of course not. You cannot do this.
All right, very nice. Brother Muhammad, what does Islam tell us about how to behave with non-Muslims?
We have the real example in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam never began an attack against non-Muslims. As here in Egypt and many other countries, we just think that to kill the one who is different with you in the religion is the correct way, but it's not the correct way. Actually, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam assigned the mithaq, the covenant with non-Muslims. There is a truce between Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Quraysh. In which it was stated that if anyone come to the Prophet ﷺ from Quraysh, so Nabi ﷺ has to send him back to his tribe in order to deal with him. So one day a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and told Nabi ﷺ, I want to declare my Islam. So Nabi ﷺ knew that Quraysh was sending 2 men in order to track this man. So they were asking Nabi ﷺ to get this man back to the tribe in order to be punished according to his bad deed. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, okay, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, do not declare Islam now. So you have to return to your back tribe in order to get your reward. So that I think we have to follow the correct teachings of Islam, and we do not treat other Muslims they are just non-human or something like that. So we are not brutal. We are Muslim. We are good. Or we have to reveal that we are. Complete. I don't know the perfection, but I think we have to deal with him in the correct manner, as the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered us to deal with them.
Okay.
Not harm them.
Very nice. Some good examples there from the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Brother Mustafa, how should we behave with non-Muslims as well?
All right. First of all, I would start to make a point that what's most important is that you realize that religion, in every man is a choice. It's not a force. You don't force anybody to be. You're not forced to be a Muslim. I'm not forced to be a Muslim. Someone else isn't forced to be a Christian. It's a choice each one makes. So we have to make a point that. And also, before I came to Islam and I wasn't a Muslim, I could go to a supermarket and I would see a Muslim. He didn't do anything to me. Like, he was a normal human being. I'm a normal human being. We interact. We talk. He's waiting in line for the purchase. I'm right behind him. Nothing happened. Like, he's not different. His choice is different than mine. That's it. We shouldn't do like, if you're not a Muslim, oh yeah, you're gonna go to hell. Oh no, you're wrong. Oh no, we have to like do something with you. No, we have to, as Muslims, we have to know that our job is just to, spread the message of the correct deen and what is right. It's not our job to push someone to be a Muslim. Like, you have to be a Muslim, otherwise Allah will punish you. Otherwise, we can spread the message, but we can't force people to do that. But we have to deal with them, of course, ethically. And exactly the same. If your neighbor is a Muslim or a Christian, you say hi, you say bye. You don't give him, because what I see sometimes in Egypt is that sometimes there is this thing, you can't explain it, but there is, like, it's there. You can feel it. Like, when it comes to dealing with the Christian, there's certain things you don't talk about, certain things you keep barrier, like, you don't say them. I don't think that's right. You shouldn't make people, because they feel it. They feel the difference because they can see it. So we shouldn't do that. We should deal with everyone the same, with an ethic way, and always talk good to the people, of course.
Okay, interesting views there. Brother Ahmed, what do you think in our relationship?
How to deal with people, of course, have to be lenient with them, as the Prophet ﷺ was the mercy to the all mankind, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. By the mercy of Allah, you were lenient with them. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ. If you were rude in speech, harsh in the heart, لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. They will be disbanded from about you. So you have to be lenient with others. And of course, you have to live Islam. Just not to say I'm a Muslim, uttering by your tongue. That's it. You have to feel it, as Brother Mustafa said. You have to show Islam by your manners, by your deeds, and not just by your words. And we have a good example between football players. We have a player called David Villa, who was from Spain. He had a teammate called Eric Abidal. And Eric Abidal was Muslim, French player. And Villa, he's still a non-Muslim, but he said, I was taught in school that Islam is a religion of terrorism, but when I dealt with Abdul, I found out that it's a religion of forgiveness and tolerance. So he saw Islam by the actions and the deeds and everything Abdul did, not just by the words.
Okay,
so,
very nice. In this last segment, we want to now have a look at some of the solutions. We said at the beginning what was the ideal way we should be, and most of us agreed that there was integration. But then when we asked about the real world, we ended up saying that we are all isolated as Muslims living in respected countries. So how can we go from this state of segregation and move into integration? I want to pick on your point, Brother Omar, when you talked about role models. Can you please explain to us why is it so important that Muslims have positive role models that are not just good in their religion, but also good in worldly affairs as well?
Well, of course, it's very important. When Brother Ahmed talked about the media and how it influences us, and about the link between role models, you see that in the West they always have, like Batman, Spider-Man, and then these characteristics, and you want to be like them. Even sometimes when we watch these movies, you feel motivated. I want to do like them. I want to help people. I want to just.
So you want an Islam man?
Yeah. Why not? But on the vice versa, we see something opposite to this. Like here in Egypt, for instance, I can't talk about every other Islamic nation. You can find that Muslims, and especially those people who are righteous, or they have the appearance of righteous people, like having a beard or wearing like a jalabiyah or something. That these people, they're drunkards, they womenizers. They just don't have any ethics, and of course that destroys the role models for us, because I don't want to be like these people. I don't want to, and there's an absence of people that I must follow. So that destroys the spirit of Muslims. So we should deal with the media that we like, teach our children, teach ourselves that there are role models that we can follow, even if they are imaginary.
Okay, excellent. So we'll start with the imaginary, hopefully coming to the real one soon. But Brother Muhammad, what would you say also with regards to the same subject? You're Egyptian as well. Would you say that in the Arab world, generally speaking, that there are positive role models for us to follow in not just religion, but also in the worldly matters as well? And if not, why not?
Yes. Here in the Arab world, we're just imitating the people from the Western world. We're just trying, they are perfect in everything, they are perfect in technology, something like that. So we're just trying to imitate them, mimicking them. But when it comes to the real world, they are trying I'm talking about the Western world. They are trying to learn the teachings of Islam. So according to the role model, like I think here in the Arab world, I think it's absent nowadays. Because, you know, as Omar said, you can say that the appearance is good, but if you are dealing with this person, the process of dealing with this person is going to prove that he is just a bad person because he does have the bad behavior, something like that. So I think the word role model here in the Arab world is absent nowadays.
Very sad. Okay. Mustafa, coming to role models. What would you say, Slovenia, or just generally speaking, as a Muslim, you embraced Islam and you've come into this beautiful religion. Yes. How would you? Did you find anyone as a role model, someone who was amazing that you wanted to be like?
Firstly, when I became a Muslim, I used to because I wasn't really I didn't know Arabic, so I used to watch a lot of Sheikh Yusuf Astaz. So, because he had amazing stories, so kind of like I thought of him as a great man. And later on, when I started, when I understood more about Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I really wanted to imitate him, even if it was like 1%. It'd make me happy, and that's my point. In Slovenia, let's say that the majority of the community, 70%, is non-Muslims. So, in that means that the 20% or the remaining percentage of Muslims are being watched by a lot of people.
Okay.
So it's very important that individually each Muslim acts or interacts with other people while he's being watched in an Islamic way, with ethics, as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam dealt with non-Muslims. If that happens, people slowly start to process this actions, these interactions with Muslims, and the image starts to change. You know, one says, yeah, Muslims are that and this. Someone said, no, I have a friend, I have a neighbor, I have someone I know, a colleague, someone at work. He's a Muslim and he does this and that. As long as you're doing a good image, word of mouth is really quick. It's something that you can't stop. It goes around and the message spreads. So if we work individually, each one of us works on himself, being a better Muslim and showing Islam, being proud of it. It's your religion. You should be proud to show that you have Islam in your heart, and you should carry it like a flag. You know, you should make an image. Yes. Okay. So that if we do it individually, people will see it.
Excellent. Okay, with Ahmed, and what's your perspective on the topic of role models?
Yes, of course, each one of us has to start with themselves. They have to be the role model in themselves for others, because you have to involve yourself with others. Because when some people come to me and deal with me, after they deal with me, you tell me, before I deal with you, and I saw you with beard, and I had it to deal with you, but after I dealt with you, I found it something different. So you have to involve yourself with others. After that, you tell them, and to be the role model for them, and they will follow you, inshallah.
Okay, excellent. We are coming towards the end of the program. There's just 1 minute left, I'm told in my ear. But before we conclude, just one word answers, if I could. Very quickly, Brother Omar, what would you say is the solution for us to go from being isolated to becoming integrated, in one sentence?
Follow the footsteps of the Prophet.
Excellent. Follow the footsteps of the Prophets. Muhammad.
Forgiveness. Forgiveness. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to a Taif in order to tell them about his message, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had a bad reaction from these people because they start throwing him with a stone, something like that, until his feet bled. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam just feel he has to be forgiven for these people.
Excellent. So forgiveness.
Yes.
That was a paragraph, not a sentence.
Yes.
Brother Mustafa.
Yes. Carry Islam as a sigil on your heart. Right. Show it with pride and show it in a good manner, like Islam really is.
Very nice. And lastly, Brother Ahmed.
Represent Islam in your deeds and not just your words.
Excellent. Okay, actions speak louder than words, as they say. Okay, thank you very much to all of my guests for coming to the program and sharing your views on a very sensitive but yet very informative subject. So thank you very much, Omar. Thank you very much, Muhammad, Mustafa, and Ahmed. Thank you very much. Dear viewers, we've come to the end of our program here, and I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in. It was a beautiful discussion on those 3 key words. I would love to hear what you have to say. You can join us, watch our video, hopefully, on YouTube, and leave us your comments, and we'd like to read what you think. Should it be in assimilation, integration, or should we be separated? On that note, inshallah ta'ala, we would like to conclude, and thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next week at the same time, at the same place, on the fantastic program, Let's Talk. So until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallah, wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah, how perfect you are, Allah. Subhanallah, wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah, how perfect you are, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, Allah. I'm calling your name, Allah. I call you, I need you, Allahu Akbar, Allah. Your mercy is great.